make.
Senator Abaribe, thank you for speaking to us on the Avalon Daily. Congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you very much.
There's been lots of campaigning going on for the principal office positions in the Senate, none like we have ever seen before. It's even surprising to see that some of these campaigns have DGs on their own. So what is your take on this level of campaigning for the principal positions in the Senate, and being in your position, how are you responding to such campaigns by the opposition?
Well, I guess that we have to take this thing also in a historical context. At the time that we started with civil democracy in 1999, there was also the same type of campaign, but the campaign didn't have, like you said, DGs and everything. But there has always been a very, very vigorous campaign for the question of who becomes the, I would say, the chairman of the National Assembly and the vice chairman, that is the Senate president and the speaker. Our take really is that there is everything for Nigeria to gain in having a legislature that is truly independent, that will act as a proper check on the executive as designed by the Constitution. A situation where the executive wants to determine who becomes the principal officer in the legislature is fraught with a lot of danger. Danger in that if you do not have a proper check on the executive, what you will get is simply a budding autocracy, and of course it's a very slippery slope to go down into a full-blown this. And we know that we do not have self-restraint when it comes to matters of power. I'm talking in general terms for those of us less developed countries. And therefore, because we have not built up all these traditions of restraint from somebody using power to the detriment of others, there's always for us that need for us to have institutions that will be able to check the excesses of an executive. And so that's the reason.
Great. So you were quoted in the Punch as saying that nothing stops the PDP from producing the Senate president or the chairman of the National Assembly. I know that constitutionally nothing stops the PDP from presenting it, but isn't it a moral issue that the party that has the highest amount of senators in the chamber should produce the leadership of the National Assembly?
No, it's not a moral issue. I think you're getting it wrong. Maybe what you will say is that by convention, in politics, morality really takes a back seat. And what people do is to take what they can get. And of course, what I really meant, if you really read that interview properly, was that the ruling party, as much as by convention they should be able to do so, they should do it on the basis of persuasion, not on the basis of somebody standing there and telling us, we have made a choice as party chairman. Okay, I'm the party chairman, and I decide what happens. And I have decided that this way, and all that. I mean, you're not talking to kids. Yeah, I think basically the party chairman made some assertions that really ought not to have been done. First of all, when you're having a meeting of your party caucus, the reason why it's called a caucus is that it's supposed to be away from public glare. Because you're supposed to have certain meetings, you don't have to put it in the public glare. And so a party caucus shouldn't now be televised. Secondly, even if televised, maybe it should have just been okay, all of us are seated and say, okay, we thank God, and Nigeria is for everybody, we work on the basis of Nigeria, and then you go. You shouldn't also be seen on television now saying to people who have been elected, oh, you're not entitled to this, you're not entitled to that. Yeah. Which of course is not in the Constitution. That's why I needed to point it out, that as much as we do things by convention, somebody should not try to tell you what your entitlements are or not. Otherwise, this is the reaction. And the reaction is that somebody can decide. I think one of the APC members, Governor Kalu, had said that if you don't give us in the Southeast, they say, we will now run for. So, it is a reaction to those type of assertions.
But before I even get to the issue of former Governor Kalu, I wanted to ask him, because you said also in that interview with The Punch that some of the members of your party are already consulting, their chances if they wanted to run for the chairman of the National Assembly. So I'd like to ask you directly if you are considering running.
And I will also say to you, like I said in the interview, that we are keeping everything to our chest. We are keeping everything to our chest. We are keeping all our members together.
Yes.
I think at the moment we are about 42.
Yes.
And if what is going on in Zamfara ultimately comes out, we probably will reach 46 or more.
Yes.
And so, between the APC, that will be 50-something, and us, that will be 46, that tells you that there's no overwhelming majority of any side. And so persuasion should be what anybody can use. And if I can persuade 10 members, even 9 of the APC, I can actually be Senate President. So it's actually a question of persuasion. Exactly. No, but don't take it that I'm saying I'm running. No, I only said that everything is you can see the arithmetic. So what does that tell you? That tells you also that when you're moving to reach a certain desired outcome, maybe you'll be far much more tactical. Maybe the nature of the way you speak, maybe the nature of the way you go about it might make much more difference than the handing down of directives, so to say. I could understand where they are coming from. I could understand that, in 2015, the party didn't come down and the party didn't, but, like I said, the historical his own look at it also tells you that the dynamics have changed. We used to have 86 members of the PDP and 13 or 14 members of the other parties. You understand? And so that means that the way we approach things that time will be different.
Of course, it means persuasion now is the way to get your...
Well, at that time, if everybody, 80% of the people were the PDP, you never needed to go to another party to talk to them. But now, where you have 55 to 45, 60 to 40, then it's now obvious that there will now be the necessity.
I know that you are from the Southeast, and I know a couple of Southeast senators, want a few of these principal positions to come to the Southeast for a fair sense of balance in terms of leadership and national spread. Would you argue that it would make a lot of sense for one of these principal positions to come to a senator from the Southeast, whether it's the Senate leadership position or probably the deputy Senate presidency position, or if possible, the minority leadership position, to come to a member or a senator from the Southeast?
One thing I know is that usually the convention is also that we have 6 zones. And usually the configuration within parties is to make sure that each zone also has a part of this. But I cannot speak for what happens in the APC. I can only speak for what happens in the PDP. And I know that within the PDP, we're also consulting and we are also asking our people to also take that into consideration.
Talking about that consulting, I know that your former boss, former Governor Jules Okalu, who's just been elected senator also, is jostling for the position of the Deputy Senate Presidency, even though he's under the APC. Would you come to a point wherein, if there is a possibility that he could niche that seat, where senators from the Southeast will rally around that idea that finally somebody from the Southeast will be Deputy Senate President again, and try to support him into that office? Or is strictly going to be a case of, well, the fact that you're in the APC doesn't mean you can count on our vote, being that we're both from the Southeast?
Well, I have had to address this issue, and I said that we, as the PDP, are going to work in one accord. And so we are not going to say now it is a Southeast matter. You understand? This is the principal office position that we're looking at now is, what does the PDP want? You understand me? So that is where we're going to go first. It's after, when we finish that we will now, and the consultation in the PDP, like I said earlier, is us as those within the Senate and the House of Rep, then in conjunction with our governors, because right now we have, I think, about the same number of governors like the APC. I think it's about, I think about 2 seats different and all that. So our governors play a very critical role now. So we, with our governors and with their national party leadership, who brought us to this point, because they were the people that also gave us tickets and supported us, and then we did the election. So all of us are going to be together and make the decision that is in the best interest of the PDP going forward. Because we haven't finished. We are in the tribunal, and we are also going to have to do an election in 2023. So whatever we do will be to be able to continue to build up our party, to be able to continue to let Nigerians know that the PDP is the better alternative, and so whatever decisions we take will not just be a decision that will be parochial, it will be a decision that will be all-embracing to help us to go back there.
Because I know when we talk about this principal offices in the National Assembly, it seems that the conversation about how it reflects on the constituents of these individuals are usually lost in the conversation. And I'd like to ask you personally, of what significance is, take for instance, if you were Senate President today, how does that reflect on the people of your constituency back at home?
Well, if you want us to now send it that way, we will lose the essence of this conversation, which is the essence of conversation about Nigeria. Because if you now go that way, we will now have to be forced to also ask the president of Nigeria how being president has reflected on the people in Daura village. So you can now see why we will not also want that conversation to go that way. But essentially, everybody is elected as a member of House of Rep, in which case he has a constituency, as a senator, in which case he has a constituency. And then being voted in as a Senate president will not make you forget that there is a constituency that brought you. Yes. That means that maybe being brought in as a Senate president will mean that you would have to attract far more than ordinarily being a member of the Senate to your constituency. But beyond that, we always want to see ourselves as senators of the Federal Republic so that there must be fairness, there must be balance, there must be economic upliftment for every member of our society called Nigeria.
I understand that there has to be fairness because you're making laws for the entire country, not just laws for where you come from. But then again, I'd like to know if you think that legislators from the Southeast, particularly ranking senators like you from the Southeast, need to do a whole lot more in terms of legislation that can lift up the people and the communities in the southeastern part of the country. It looks to me, from the feelers that we get, that there's a lot of discontent, and there's a growing discontent from young people in the southeastern part of the country. They feel like government is a bit far away from them. Their views are that government is in Abuja and they are abandoned somewhere back in the southeast. And so, is it that the senior legislators or the people appointed into government from the southeast are not doing enough to fight for their people, or to make a case for their people, or to fight for legislation that affect their people positively so that they can also feel a part of this big country, Nigeria? And I say this specifically because you're from a state where there's a whole lot of entrepreneurship going back, in your home state. And what are legislators really doing to make sure that there are laws that are passed that can really transform the lives of people in Aba and in certain communities in the South, where they can feel the presence of government?
Well, I think that maybe to answer that question properly, where we need to go will be to ask, what essentially does a legislator do? You understand? Yes. It's only when you answer that question properly that you can now go back to now ask yourself, if your people are feeling alienated from government, where does it come from? Does it come from the legislator, or does it come from somewhere else? And I can only answer it also very well if I give you examples. I represent the Southeast, and within the South, I represent Abia South. Now, let us just talk in terms of infrastructure. And in terms of infrastructure, let's talk in terms of roads. Okay? At a particular point, up till now, the road that links Aba to Ikorekbene, 24 kilometers, totally disrupted. And every budget year, I fight to make sure that funds are put in to rehabilitate that road. Every year, too, the Ministry of Finance never releases any funding to that road. So I fight with the people in the Ministry of Works, and the Ministry of Works says, oh, they haven't released any money. Oh, then after a little while, they say, oh, all that they release is little money to FEMA to do remediation. But the road had deteriorated to such an extent that you no longer can do remediation. So people using that road have to divert into villages around there, spoiling the roads because those roads are not also meant to carry. And of course, the major seaport from Calabar, the cement factories, every other thing around there, everything has to be routed through that road. And of course, you could see the devastation around there. Every business on that road, filling stations, eateries, all manners of things, had to close down because nobody was using the road again. And so, would you now say it's my fault, or would you say it's the fault of the executive that is supposed to, for a very critical artery? And so, after fighting the several years, and I'm talking first year, they now came one time and said, okay, no, what we're going to do is we're going to do a multi-lane road. We're redoing the whole road. We're awarding new contracts. They awarded new contracts. Multi-lane road to Niger Cat. Niger Cat mobilized, came, scooped the road off to now bring in this thing, and then stopped, and the thing became a lake. Why? Oh, we were paid some. They haven't funded us again. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they haven't funded them. The road is impassable. So, severally, I now had to bring the Committee on Works, and they got there and they saw it. And the works people said, yes, it's true, but no funding. So right now, we've just been told that they now want to borrow through Sukuk funds to now do that road. Same thing, Enugu, Port Harcourt Expressway. It got to a point too, I think it's Sukuk they are using now. So, why I'm telling this story and giving a graphical example is to now say, it's not that the legislator hasn't fought to bring the thing into the budget and all that, but then you look at the budget, they fund the budget 10%, they fund the budget 20%, not more than 30% capital, because those things are capital projects. And so the question is always, who do you blame? I think the blame shouldn't come to the members of the legislature for not doing their job, because they've done their job. My job is to attract it, make sure it's in the budget, push everybody to make sure that it's done. But if the man who is not elected as Minister of Finance, who is not elected as Minister of Works, decides that his priority is somewhere else, what do? You can only do one thing. You can come to the floor and shout and scream your head off, which I do, and I say, oh, he's such a very big troublemaker. He's always here criticizing government and all that, not knowing the frustrations that you suffer. That is one side. The second one, which I can also tell you, when we identify that our people are entrepreneurial, like you said, what do our people do? They make belts, they make shoes, they make this thing, they make dresses. And I decided that we should, from something that is called intervention funds, which is also sometimes misleadingly called constituency funds. And I said, okay, why don't we put it in promoting this? And so we started the Made in Aba trade fair in Abuja. Because I said if we do trade fairs in Aba, nobody will come. The roads are not there. There's no this thing. You can't bring people to come there. So why don't we bring it to them? And so every year we gather all these entrepreneurs, we gather people who make shoes, and we bring them here and showcase what goes on over there, here, give them exposure, let's say. And so it was successful at first because it was fully funded. Right now, you put, because what happens in terms of this intervention fund is that you can say, okay, the totality of funding that comes to a senator for it, for which he will give it, let the ministry come to do it. And so we located it in the Ministry of Trade and Industry, and in the particular agency called SMIDAN. And so the funding comes to SMIDAN. SMIDAN now has to do it. And so what do we get? In a short while, SMIDAN tells you, well, it used to be, what you have put here for this project is 100 million, but you see what they brought to us is just 50 million. What do we do? And so you scale everything down. The impact is also lost. So I have had cause to also now say to my people, these are the things we have put in the budget for you. The implementation is not in my hands. So what do I do in terms of implementation? It is to now continue to run to the implementing agencies that are part of the executive, and I will beg A, I will beg B, I will beg C, and of course, I'm a senator, I was elected, then I'm forced to go to the office of an unelected minister who will decide he may not need to see you, who will be very busy, who will say, oh, I'm in an ESCO meeting, and all that. So you can see the frustrations that we go through. And our principal officers, after meetings, tell us, no. Don't ever go to the office of a minister. Summon him. You understand? But I know how many times I've summoned Minister Foshola to come to see me, and he will tell you that he's in Meduguri inspecting a road, so he can't come. So you know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to get at is that maybe we need to be able to understand all the issues before the criticism comes, because the youth who is in my place doesn't see President Buhari.
Exactly my point.
He sees me.
Yes.
It's me that he sees, because I'm seen as the representative of government since he voted for me. But he doesn't know that the decisions that now affect him is majorly decided by an unelected person who will sit down there and determine where he wants to channel resources.
I mean, I agree with you that the current system in which, what you have, succinctly narrated now seems to put you on a disadvantage being a legislator. But I'm saying that because you have to go back home, to a group of young people who are discontent with the current system, who do not see the president, who do not care who the Minister of Finance is, it's you who they voted for. I also think that as a senator or as senators, you have the power to make laws, for instance, to create a new kind of system wherein there will be special funding attached to special projects. And what I mean is this. Take, for instance, the healthcare. The executive has the power, to fund the Ministry of Health and all of that. But we have seen where countries have made bold and visionary laws that create special funding, mandating those funds to go into a pool where it can provide healthcare for millions of their citizens. So I'm saying, is there no new thinking being handicapped after a long time to say, okay, what can we do to create a new kind of infrastructural bill wherein monies will be tied down to specific projects, whether the minister likes it or not? That funding is going to go to these key infrastructure that is going to power the economy. I mean, you're talking about a 24-kilometer road that is a lifeblood in a particular constituency and has been dormant for years. So is there no kind of bill that can be passed that will ensure that special funding will go to these critical infrastructure, whether or not the minister likes the face of the senator or not?
Yeah, you can't reinvent the wheel. A budget is a law. That is the fact. You pass the law. Once you pass the budget, and the law is not followed, is not implemented. So even if you don't say, let me get another law and pass it, it still will not be implemented because this is also a law. That's why I say you really can't reinvent the wheel. All I know is really, sometimes we also ask ourselves, just like you said now, wouldn't you think outside the box? No, you're not thinking outside the box. Wouldn't you just do what is in the law? That's why we said that. We even, at one time, put penalties